What's Nigel? How long was it supposed to be before we go on? Okay, just a second, guys. Why did he wait to the last minute to do it? All right. Okay. Hey, okay, here we go, guys. Okay, Rob Brown here with you on Sunday afternoon Sidelines.live wrap-up show covering all the games from yesterday in the SEC. Of course, Memphis did not play Navy. That game was canceled due to the China virus, but a lot of college football news. And as we get ready to play the games this coming week, I know everybody's going to be walking around waiting for the other shoe to drop on virus tests. Are they positive? Are they negative or whatever? Nobody knows, but we are going to forge ahead and play football. And we've got Jimmy Hodge up in Chicago on with us, Jake Crain down in Tupelo. And before we get started, I want to say our title sponsor is Duncan Williams Asset Management, on the scene in Memphis, the Mid-South, and around the nation since 1969. They work with you on your 401ks, retirement plans. They work with foundations and endowments. David Scully, the president, is a proud alumnus of the University of Georgia. That is Duncan Williams Asset Management, DWAM. You can find them on our website at sidelines.live. Now, just a programming note that my father mentioned. He said, make sure people know you're on 3 to 5 p.m. Central on Fridays on the www.sidelines.live podcast all over the world, technically. And then Saturday mornings, 8 to 10 a.m. Central on Sports 56 WHBQ, FM 96.1, and the new FM 98.5. And Sunday afternoons, 3 to 5 p.m. Central, Sidelines.live. This is the wrap-up show. And also, let's say a quick word about one of our sponsors, Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. October 5th, they took over the dealership that was there, and Justin Wynn is the general manager. He is on with us, and they've got a lot going on over there. Ford and Toyota, cars, trucks, SUVs, anything that you are looking for. They can even find the old FJ Cruisers. You need to check out the F-150s they have there. They also have the Toyota Tundras. Duck season is 6 days away. We've been out brushing blinds down in Shearville and all over the area today. It is cool. There's a lot of ducks, a lot of speckled-bellied geese in the area. It's getting close to hunting season. You got football. You got hunting season. Technically, it's just about as good as it gets. You got a lot going on with that. But remember, Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas, on Highway 1, about a half mile south of Highway 64. A lot of people in Memphis and the Mid-South go back and forth to Heber Springs, Greer's Ferry. It is an easy stop off half a mile south of Highway 64 in Wynne, Arkansas. They're open every day except Sunday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Red River Ford Toyota on Highway 1 in Wynne, Arkansas. Jimmy, Jake, let's get started. Not a whole lot. We had 4 games rescheduled in the SEC yesterday, but the first one, Vanderbilt and Kentucky. I don't know what it is about Kentucky, but when the expectations are really high that Kentucky could be really good, they are struggling. They're now 3-4, and they eke out a win 38-35 over Vanderbilt. And I just, you got to wonder, their offense is really struggling. Now, Mitch Davis is going to try and join us in the second hour, covers Memphis for Rivals.com, and also pays close attention to Kentucky. I'll start with you, Jimmy. Your thoughts about Kentucky and Vanderbilt. Again, not so much Vanderbilt, but what Kentucky really isn't doing this year.
Well, I think in this particular game, it was a very difficult situation with them losing their offensive line coach, who was a great left guard at Kentucky in the late 90s. Lost him to cancer this week, and I'm sure they're playing with a heavy heart. Actually, offensively, they put up plenty of points on the board to win. They had to hang on at the end. Vandy made it close. They played for the entire 60, but that was kind of surprising because Vandy had really been struggling offensively, even though Seals is going to be a really fine quarterback for them. But it's kind of just traditional over the years where Kentucky Vandy games, no matter what the circumstances coming in, they just always seem to be close. And that's the way it was yesterday. You thought Kentucky had the game in hand, but Vandy scored late to make it interesting. But hey, in this league especially, a win's a win.
Well, you're right. They're all conference games this year, so that's good. But I think Kentucky was hoping to take a big step forward this year, and I think both of y'all would agree. A lot of people thought, experience-wise, that they had one of the better offensive and defensive line units around, but they're 3-4. The offense has just not been that good. Jake Crain, your thoughts about Kentucky Vanderbilt? Again, mainly about Kentucky. I think Vanderbilt is still winless on the year.
Yeah, I just think those teams are what they are right now. To be honest with you, I was surprised that Vanderbilt scored that many points against the Kentucky defense. They've kind of opened the offense. Todd Fitch has for Ken Seals, that young quarterback they got. And he's blossoming a little bit, but they don't have a lot around him, and they're not very good on defense either. But Kentucky is what they are. I mean, I think people forget last year half the time they had a running back and wide receiver lineup at quarterback. Terry Wilson still hasn't progressed in the passing game. If they're able to beat you up front, if you're an inferior opponent, they're going to score points. If not, then they're not. So I just think it's to the point now where those teams have kind of dictated, who they are and where they're going to be for the rest of the year. I thought it was pretty interesting. I was surprised actually that Wilson, is playing as much as he is, that they haven't kind of transitioned to Gatewood for the future. But, what they gave Coach Schlarner before the game, and Vanderbilt obviously declining the penalty, I thought was a real class act and a tribute to a guy that did it the right way. And a ton of people have respect for, not just at Kentucky, but all through the coaching profession and all through the college football profession. So that game was a lot more high scoring than I thought, especially on the Vanderbilt end. But again, not surprised Kentucky won, was surprised by the margin, though.
Well, 38-35. Defense, not really, much for a lot of teams in the SEC. But the better teams, is just typically what happens. They're starting to pull away. But in the 3-4 Kentucky, I think this was a year they had hoped to, before all the mess with the China virus, to make a statement and really come out. This is the 8th year of Mark Stoops at Kentucky. And they've built a culture up there. They're building one that has the expectation of winning. So, but anyway, they got a lot of work to do. Let's go look at the next one. South Carolina and Ole Miss. We talked about this a lot on the show yesterday, guys, especially Gordon Ford. And, Will Muschamp in South Carolina gave up 59 points yesterday to Ole Miss. Ole Miss's defense, really, it's not very good at all. We know that. But 59 points is still a lot of points, regardless of the circumstances this season. Jimmy, you got to wonder where is South Carolina going? They brought in Kurt Roper, the Grim Reaper. He served a stint as offensive coordinator at South Carolina. Now you've got Mike Bobo, and he brings his quarterback from the Mountain West Conference from Colorado State. They're struggling. Their offense, they scored a lot of points, but they gave up 59 yesterday. Your thoughts on South Carolina and Ole Miss? Yeah, it was yesterday in Oxford at 4:30.
Yeah, I really didn't expect it to be close. I just thought South Carolina just from an overall team standpoint, as far as chemistry and so forth goes, after getting just annihilated at home by A&M last week, would kind of just go out there, go through the motions. But surprisingly, and you got to give the coaching staff credit, they came out there ready to play. They played hard. It was just a stark reminder of how bad Ole Miss's run defense is. I mean, it was just ridiculous, the holes that those South Carolina running backs were going through, and it kept them in the game. And it was just really the explosiveness of the Ole Miss offense that really won out. I mean, they just got weapons everywhere, and they ended up just outscoring the Gamecocks. But the game was much closer than I expected, and again, as far as South Carolina is concerned, I don't know where they go. We've talked ad nauseum about the pandemic year creating a situation where Not many of these Power 5 athletic programs are going to be in the mood to make a coaching change just because of the amount of money that they're all losing this year, because it's very expensive nowadays to buy out a coach, and then you have to go through the process of paying probably close or maybe even more than paying that type of money to the next head coach, not to mention their coaching staff. And I just don't think anybody wants to face that prospect right now, because it's just been such a weird year overall, ranging from no spring practice, limited preparation, getting ready for the season, and it's just been something we've never experienced before.
Really, and you talk about South Carolina and Will Muschamp. This is his 5th year there, and they're going backwards. Jake, what do they give me? And Jimmy and you're making great points. Who's going to make a change this year? Everybody's going to be running a deficit. Most SEC schools are going to be running between 35 and 60 million. And that,
that's what they tell them.
Yeah, they got more money than that.
I mean, I'm watching. It's funny we say all this, and I'm looking at SEC camp. None of the construction stopped on the new facility. The one at Florida is just going full bore. There's 2 or 3 other around the conferences. They keep saying all this, but they got the money to do it. If they really had to do it, and it's a situation where they have the money to do it. I think Will Muschamp's buyout somewhere around 13. But what people don't understand is that a lot of these buyouts, there's competition clauses. You got to meet certain standards, even sometimes against certain teams, to be able to get that full buyout. Because people just hear the word buyout and they think there's no strings attached. Well, sometimes there's clauses built in there. So there's ways. And if you're South Carolina right now, you talk about regressing. Offensively, they haven't been good the whole year, really, outside of a few games here or there in the run game. But defensively, they've regressed about as bad as anybody. And especially in the latter part of games when you're supposed to be making adjustments, doing this, that, and the other. But the thing that I find the most interesting is that just like a lot of teams, they don't have a capable backup ready to come in and try and give it a go. And a little bit not having a spring hurt, obviously, not having a normal summer and fall camp. But you got to have another guy ready to go when you've been at a place for half a decade, and that's a problem that South Carolina's having. It's a problem that Tennessee's having. Kentucky really doesn't have one in Joey Gatewood. Auburn doesn't really have a backup. If you look around the SEC, look at LSU, look at A&M. I mean, it's really scary for some of these teams actually at quarterback that you're one play away from going from averaging 50 points a game to 10.
Look, South Carolina, Steve Spurrier did have success there, but he left, and Muschamp comes in the 16 season. They had the 1 year, with an interim coach. Nothing changed. The longer they keep Will Muschamp, they say, well, the cost of the buyout and all this, and you're right about competition clauses being in there, it's going to be more costly to keep him, because the longer he stays and they keep playing like this, and I like him, but they're 2-5. They're terrible. They've still got to play Georgia. I know they beat Georgia last year in overtime in Athens, but they're not getting any better in year 5. And so you've got to look at things long term. Man, they're 59 points to Ole Miss. Ole Miss's offense is incredible. Their defense is almost non-existent, but they still held South Carolina to 42 points, and they put on 59. I don't know. South Carolina is just treading water. At some point, they got to start swimming back to shore and make a change and do something for their football program. They're just not getting any better. And you're right, Mitch. Jake, about the quarterback situation in the facilities. I know Auburn is coming up this Friday, November 20th. The Board of Trustees will meet the day before Auburn plays Tennessee and they've already done site preparation a couple of months ago. They're across the street. It's where the old track is in Auburn for a new football facility that could cost between $80 and $100 million. They've already got $41 million raised. The rest of it they'll probably do on a bond issue, but they're not going to stop building and they're not going to stop growing. I know Auburn record enrollment this year with grad school over 31,000 students, and nobody's getting a break because of the China virus. I know. I have a son there. I pay out of state. There's no discount. Okay. So it's interesting. All right, let's look at the next one. Arkansas went down to the Swamp, played Florida yesterday, 63-35. And I was worried about Arkansas trying to get into a track meet. And that's not, they're not going to get into track meet and beat Florida. But Arkansas is a program, I think that's a great example, guys. Sam Pittman was not able to make the trip because he tested positive for the virus. I hate the virus, but he tested positive. He couldn't go. Barry Odom, who'd been a head coach the previous 4 years at Missouri, was the coach. You saw right there, as a head coach, he doesn't really get to coach the defense like he does as a coordinator. And Jimmy, I'll start with you. There were a lot of very obvious breakdowns in communication, busted coverages where the Florida receivers were just wide open, and you hadn't really seen a whole lot of that of Arkansas. They haven't looked that bad in the previous games this season. Would you attribute that to, again, Odom not being able to be as hands-on with the defense?
Well, I think there's a bunch of factors on. There were 2 or 3 of those touchdowns where the coverage was perfect, and the receivers just made great plays. Or Trask put the ball in about a 1-foot window where it's only place to be thrown. I thought probably this was the best I've seen Florida last night. I mean, offensively, that was just an avalanche. And I think this was the game that really emphasized how difficult it is to play a 10-game SEC schedule. If you're a program like Arkansas that just isn't quite where they want to be as far as numbers and, the depth that you need to have to beat the elite teams in the SEC. I mean, they gave it everything they had. They were playing hard, but I'm telling you, Florida offensively, they were just a juggernaut last night.
They were. And Kyle Trask is the latest example of Dan Mullen's ability to coach quarterbacks up. I mean, and he's coached Alex Smith, Tim Tebow, Dak Prescott. Kyle Trask is going to be a high draft pick, I would think. He's 6'5", 240 pounds. He's a better quarterback than the guy that he played behind most of his high school career in Manville, Texas, Derek King, who's at Miami now. And look, Florida is just becoming a better team, a more confident team every week. Their running game, the defense, it's not great, but when you score 63 points, I mean, you're going to be giving up a few yourself, but 63-35, the game was tied at 7, and then they began to pull away. But I really like this Arkansas team and the coaching staff there. But again, they've got to get more players. They're not built to be blow for blow in a track meet, are they?
Hey, Rob, I don't mean to cut y'all off, but I think Will Muschamp just got fired.
He did.
Yeah, it's being reported in a few places right now. I think it's about to come out. I know you like breaking news, Rob. So,
breaking news. Jake, this is yours. Good job.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't like
that. You know what I'm saying? But it's there were reports a little bit last week, but now it's kind of coming out. I think something just went down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want anything. I don't want to ever see anybody get fired. But when you just look at it objectively, what are you paying a coach to do? To come in there and be nice and do interviews? You're paying him to win and win championships. That should be your goal. Your goal should be to win everything, every game, and everything you do. Why pay that kind of money if you don't want those kind of results? That's interesting. We'll see what happens on that, Jake. But look, Arkansas. We're going back to Arkansas. Sam Pittman hopefully will be back this week, and we'll get to that. But Jake, I'd like your thoughts real quick on Arkansas.
Yeah.
And then I want you to talk about their recruiting, because they're sitting in the low 20s right now, and they have room for maybe 6 or 7 more players.
Yeah, well, that game went about how I thought it was. I mean, we had talked about it earlier. I just thought the matchup wasn't a good one for Arkansas. Not that Florida's a good matchup really for anybody, but just their style of play and the lack of depth on defense. If it was going to turn into a track meet, they were going to lose, and that's what it turned into. I mean, Florida scored 28 points in the second quarter, and that's without Kyle Pitts. But again, I mean, it takes away nothing from, what Arkansas has done this far. I mean, Coach Pittman wasn't there, but unless Coach Pittman runs a 4-4 and's got great hands, I don't think he could have done anything about it.
He does not. He does not run a 4-4.
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and take an educated guess that he doesn't. Maybe a 10-yard dash. But no, I look at Arkansas, and it's all about PR and momentum for them right now. The wins have been a huge steroid shot to that. It's already, you already can see it in recruiting. I mean, who'd have thought Arkansas would be able to pick and choose who they're going to finish their class with, really, and being ranked where they are. Chad Morris did a really good job recruiting. I think Sam Pittman's only going to elevate that. And I think they're going to be really good on both sides of the ball up front, which at the end of the day is something that you have to do if you're going to have a chance to win a championship in this league. And I think they're doing that if you look at their recruiting class. And I think it's going to kind of be a mix of old Arkansas and new Arkansas a little bit with their philosophy up front, with what Kendall Briles is doing offensively. And if they keep elevating the way they are, I would be shocked to see Barry Odom and Kendall Briles there for more than 2 years.
Yeah, that is going to be the hard thing. Kendall Briles has been around. His father, Art Briles, a great coach, lost his job at Baylor, all that mess that happened out there, but he will be back in. And Barry Odom is certainly a capable coach. You put him in a program that has a better recruiting base and all that, Barry Odom will be a big-time winner. Wouldn't you think so, Jimmy?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Missouri's kind of been in, I guess, what you call a tweener program since their entrance into the SEC. They seem to be able to get quality players, but not quite the size and having all the combinations that you need to beat, again, the elite teams. These huge linemen that can run, they're athletic, very agile, and can run down skill position players from behind. Now, the first couple of years, they took advantage of the fact that Georgia and Tennessee for a couple of years there, especially Tennessee, went into a downward trend, and Missouri snuck in and won the East 2 years in a row. But still, like when they played Auburn in the championship game in 2013 and the next year against Alabama, that was a really good indication of kind of where they stood when you matched them up against top five teams. They just they didn't have the size, enough players with the athletic ability to, in other words, NFL players. And I think they're still, as far as Missouri goes, they're still working hard to try to, get the level of players that can put them in the upper echelon, the SEC, on a permanent basis. So it's, it was a tough job, and I thought under the circumstances, Gary Pinkel did an excellent job there. And then, as it started to wind down on Barry's head coaching time there, it was clear they were just going to have to go another route. But I agree, if he gets in the right situation, yeah, he can definitely be successful. I think he and Kendall would be really well suited to be there at least one more year. Because of the pandemic, I just don't think you're going to see many coaching changes. A handful, but not much more than that. And then, those guys will likely move on. But in the meantime, because of the work they've done for the Sam at Arkansas, it's going to make it a very attractive coordinator opening for anybody that would be interested in an Arkansas job. And believe me, after Sam's shown what they can do potentially, and shown the country they can be competitive against the top teams in the country, there's going to be a lot of interest in those coordinator positions, whenever Barry and Kendall decide to move on.
Yeah, and Kendall has been at Florida State. He's been around at a number of schools. What is his greatest strength? I think he's done, in my opinion, the thing that really sticks out is what he's done in terms of developing Felipe Franks. No, look, last night Felipe just doesn't have the weapons around him to go blow for blow with Florida, but I think he's playing some of the best football, and he's playing up to the level that people would expect him to play at. Just, again, he needs more talent around him.
Well, I think, first of all, he's only maybe 10 years older than a lot of the players that he's coaching.
Yeah.
So he knows the culture,
yeah.
And he fits in very easily with these players. And so they combine the fact that he's a really good coach. I mean, he doesn't have a hard time winning these players over. They're buying in. And again, as I mentioned with Felipe, what he's done with him this year, I mean, young high school quarterbacks, forward, 5-star players are going to be really interested in playing in that Arkansas offense, as will wideouts. They like to use the tight end. So I think the future's really bright there.
Yeah, I do too. And again, as young as he is, I don't know what school would hire him, but they're going to need to understand he's probably 31, 32 years old, but
Yeah,
he's a really good coach. Jake, do you like Kendall Browse as a head coach in the next couple of years? I would think he needs a few years as a coordinator. I would be very reluctant to want to hire a guy who's been in the SEC for only a year. It's very dangerous. People love to hire make these sexy hires, and you see it more often than not when they're just not ready.
Yeah, and I think he's a year away, and you're exactly right. But kind of a theme, coming nowadays is you want to get innovative guys early because you don't want the book out on them too long, especially if they're going to be in a league that they were just in. It's kind of like a pitcher coming up through the ranks in the minors. The first few starts, they don't have the total book on them, and they typically do pretty well. But around that fourth or fifth start, when they start figuring out what your out pitch is and what your tendencies are, they tend to start barreling balls. And that's kind of a method that some ADs have gone with. I think you're seeing a little bit more in college basketball than football right now, but it's bleeding its way into. But Kendall needs at least another year, 2 years in, 2 years to put in a portfolio. And again, the thing he can say is, we're not operating with a full deck of cards that I've been able to recruit and a quarterback really. I know Felipe transferred from Florida, but a young guy that they can bring in and culture up and get where they want to fit exactly what they want to do. But I think he is a year away. I like what he's doing. He's really kind of low key. He's kind of got a little Lincoln Riley about him, and he's not really flashy. He's not like Lane and all them. And Sark's really calmed down lately, but he's just kind of low key, loves to up tempo, but he's smart and he doesn't force it. And I think that's why it works is that he's malleable. He's not going to be stubborn and stuck to one, philosophy throughout the game that's not working. And I think being a chameleon nowadays, especially when you run an up-tempo offense and got to try and be as multiple as you can because that's the trick, running up-tempo. I think it's something he'll keep progressing and he'll end up getting to where he needs to be.
Yeah, I would just want to give him opportunity, because a guy can come in his first year and catch a lot of people off guard and look great. But after people, if after 2 or 3 years, you consistently are getting the wins and your offense is people can't figure it out, then you can be a head coach. But a lot of people come in and Gus Malzahn's first year at Auburn was the best year he's ever had. And he's never come close to that. He had a 10-win season in 2017. But bottom line, I want to see more proof that these guys can do it long term. I know athletic directors and fan bases are quick to pull the plug or pull the trigger. So we got to get this guy. Everybody wanted Tom Herman just a few years ago at Houston. He had one big year, and then after that, okay. What's he done at Texas? Texas is the most underachieving football program considering all the resources they have in the country. $14 billion endowment, best high school football in America in terms of the numbers, although I would argue that states like Georgia and Florida, I just think have better high school football. But look, Guys, let's do this. Let's take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with more. Jake Crain from Tupelo with us, host of the J-Boy podcast, and want to talk about your podcast when we come back, and also Jimmy Hodge up in Chicago. And then we'll start looking ahead to this weekend's SEC games. Mitch Davis is going to join us at 4, talking about Memphis when their next game is. Man, they have missed a lot. Of course, we're all in the same boat, but we'll be right back till 5 p.m. Central, 6 o'clock on the East Coast. Sidelines.live Sunday afternoon wrap-up show. Hey, Jake, and have y'all confirmed about Muschamp?
Yeah, it's making its way right now. I think he just got out of a meeting with Ray Tanner.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just they're not getting any better, you know?
No, not even close.
I mean, Jimmy, don't you think? Yeah.
That's the last thing Tanner wanted to do because that was his pick, and he stuck with him. I know that Spurrier pushed him for the job also, but I just didn't think he was going to get it done there. It just, for whatever reason, the only good offensive team he's had was that 2012 season of Florida, and that's been it.
Yeah.
I mean, whoever he's brought in just hadn't been able to get it done, and it's just, it just hadn't worked. I mean, that's all you can say.
Yeah. I mean, I just think he's a great coordinator. I think Gene Chiswick's a great coordinator. Some people just aren't good head coaches. You know, it's a lot of responsibility. I mean, it's just a ton.
Yeah, the big part of that. Yeah, the big part of that, picking the right coordinators. Kendall was with Kiffin for a year or 2 years ago, and they really had a good season.
Yeah. I don't mean to cut you off, but Will Muschamp just took all the South Carolina stuff off his Twitter.
He did.
30 seconds.
I mean,
20 seconds.
20 seconds. Okay, guys. Yeah, well, let's go ahead and Jake, I'll come back in and say, give us the latest on that, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. 5 seconds. We go get me another road soda.
Yeah.
Man, we've been out 3 seconds. Okay, Rob Brown back here with you on the Sidelines.live Sunday afternoon podcast. It's the wrap-up show. I've got Jimmy Hodge from Chicago, Jake Crain down in Tupelo. And before we went to the break, the on-the-spot reporter with the breaking news, Jake Crain, tell us the latest you've heard out of South Carolina regarding their head coach, Will Muschamp.
Yeah, well, I'm just looking at it. More stuff's kind of starting to come out. He removed all the South Carolina stuff from his social media, so I don't think that's a good sign. I don't think you do that by accident. I don't want to jump the gun on anything, obviously, but it's looking that way right now. And one name I would definitely keep in mind if it happens. 2 names are Hugh Freeze and Mario Cristobal.
Yeah, Mario Cristobal, a lot of people like him, and let's talk about him. He's at Oregon. He played at Miami 86-90 with Jimmy Johnson and Dennis Erickson. I know Tommy Tuberville coached him when he was there. He was at Alabama 2013-16, 4 years. I think twice, guys, he was named Rivals.com National Recruiter of the Year. He's building Oregon's program in the mold of Alabama, Clemson, the top programs in the country. Jimmy, your thoughts about Mario Cristobal and him coming back? I know he's from South Florida. It would make sense, but Willie Taggart went to Oregon from South Florida for 1 year and then came back to Florida State and just failed miserably. Would Mario Cristobal be a guy that with what he's trying to build at Oregon, would he say, I'm going back? If that job were to open up, would he at least look at it? Or would he say, I'm going to build something at Oregon and dominate the Pac-12?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jake.
You got it.
Go ahead.
Jimmy, you got it, brother.
No, I was, my gut feeling is that I could see him staying at Oregon because he's just in a great situation there. They got a shot at the college football playoff really every year. And I their fan base, and I think even their players, they have really bought in on his work to transition their program into an Alabama type operation in which the process is used, and understanding why they go through they go through that mode of operation, and they're being a much more physical team, and if you're gonna win the national championship, you can't just run the spread and try to run east and west. You got to be able to control the line of scrimmage, and I think everybody there has really adapted positively to that. And I think he's just in a great situation. Whereas at South Carolina, boy, going into a league where it's just a really heavy lift, just to get into the SEC championship game. But on the other hand, there's obviously going to be some factors that would attract him to coming back to this part, that part of the country. So I think it's just a wait and see situation. But my gut feeling is that I don't see him at least going anywhere for 2 or 3, maybe 4 years. And then if he decides that's a place for him, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, I to be honest with you, Jimmy, I think it's a perfect situation for him because he's the second lowest paid coach, I believe, in the Pac-12. I don't think South Carolina's a job that he'll jump at. I think he'll use it as leverage. I think in the Pac-12, he knows that USC isn't really that good. They've snuck by these first 2 games. They haven't been the juggernaut they have been. Washington really hasn't either. He's kind of got a stranglehold on the Pac-12, and unless it was a big-time SEC job in the upper tier, I think he's going to use it as leverage and make that payout a little bit sweeter.
Well,
yeah,
the competition's not. Yeah, Jimmy, if he comes back, and Jake, both of you would agree, if Mario Cristobal were to come back to the SEC, it's going to be much stiffer competition, and I think he can dominate the Pac-12 because you look at Washington. That program is nothing close to what it used to be. Same thing with Southern Cal. Southern Cal is golly, it's ridiculous what they become. UCLA, Chip Kelly goes to UCLA. He might as well be in the witness protection program, guys. Just nothing. He had 4 straight BCS bowls when he was the coach at Oregon. Goes to the NFL like a lot of guys do. You can't control recruiting. You can't control everything like you can in college, and he failed in the NFL. But he's not the first one to do that. Guys, a lot of games played yesterday around the country. Notre Dame keeps on climbing the ladder. Let's focus on the Irish here for a minute. They beat Clemson in overtime without Trevor Lawrence. That was a game that it was played in South Bend. Likely Clemson and Notre Dame could meet again for the ACC championship. Jimmy, I'll start with you. Notre Dame, are they one of the top teams in the country? I know they beat Clemson, but are they Ohio State good, Alabama good? Looking at the best teams in the country right now, I think, are they close to being as good as Alabama is? Georgia, we thought was really good. Their offense just can't keep up. Their defense is strong, but they can't win the track meets. And when you get it against teams like Clemson, Alabama, you're going to be in a track meet. So that kind of removes Georgia this season. But talk about the Irish, because I know because of their name and all the TV sets, the national, college football playoff committee, they're going to push hard for Notre Dame to be in the playoff.
Yeah, I think they would have to beat Clemson twice to get in, but I really like them. I think they're very good. That offensive line can play with anybody. I mean, they just, they had a big night against that Clemson defensive front. Of course, again, they had some injuries, but I really question their wide receivers. But man, they've shown some talent there. And I tell you, Ian Book, I don't know what kind of NFL quarterback he would be, but he's an outstanding college quarterback. In that Clemson game, there were countless times it looked like he was going to be sacked. He's got outstanding speed. He can accelerate out of trouble and turn what looks like a sack into into an explosion play, and he's really, really dangerous in the open field if he gets out in space. And a really good passer. I mean, this is his third year as a starter, and he's not overwhelmed by any situation. And I think they're certainly a top 5 team right now, and they've had moments where they haven't looked very good. In the opener against Duke, they really struggled, and then they had the 3-week layoff because of the virus and looked terrible against Louisville. But they since then, I mean, I really like the way they're playing, and I've never been a big fan, but but Brian Kelly's he's a really good coach, and he's perfect for them. And so let's just put it this way: I don't care who you are, if you're not ready to play, you can find yourself in trouble against these guys. But as I mentioned, I do think they're going to have to beat a Clemson again in an ACC championship matchup to get in. But yeah, this team is way better than these past Notre Dame teams over the last 7 or 8 years, when people have said, yeah, Notre Dame, they're really an elite team, and they weren't even close to it. This team, I think, is legitimate.
Well, if you look at their record against top 5 teams, top 10 teams under Brian Kelly, it's really not that good, especially on the road. Of course, that's going to be difficult for anybody. But Jake, your thoughts about Notre Dame?
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, Jimmy, I think Notre Dame wins out and loses to Clemson. There's no way that the TV people and the people that make decisions about the money are going to let Notre Dame not be in that playoff, especially if Clemson wins out and beats Notre Dame. They'll put Clemson in. They'll put Notre Dame in. If Alabama wins out, obviously they're in. I think if Alabama wins out and loses that SEC championship game, they're going to put Alabama and Florida in. But the real question is going to come down to if Florida does beat Alabama, what are you going to do with Ohio State? Because Ohio State's not going to lose in the Big Ten. The Big Ten's not very good. So I think you can pencil in Ohio State. I think you can pencil in Alabama. The real question is if Notre Dame beats Clemson, it's a moot point, and either Florida or Texas A&M is going to get in. But at this point, I just don't see how because we all know the pageantry of college football, and if they can get Alabama and Notre Dame in the playoffs, I think they're going to do it, because they could do 48 million Tom Rinaldi things to make everybody cry and go back hundreds of years and do all this stuff. And there's no telling how much money they'll make off selling stuff or whatever. So I just have a hard time. I've watched it my whole life. My dad always said Notre Dame gets the calls and the TV dollars. So that's about how it looks like it's going.
Yeah, and you're right about that.
Could you imagine a rematch of Clemson and Ohio State with the controversy over those 2 replay calls?
Oh, it'll be billed as the biggest thing since the coronavirus, man. It'll be nuts. Imagine them having Ohio State, Alabama, Notre Dame, and Clemson in the playoffs. That's a dream scenario, I think, for them. I think it's a dream scenario. I think the Pac-12's out. Everybody's represented. They have the big boys from almost every conference, plus Notre Dame. I mean, I just don't see how they keep them out.
No, I think you're right. They will go crazy, and you're right. Tom Rinaldi will do half a dozen sentimental things. They'll find the nuns at St. Cecilia's convent, and they'll go back and about all the people, the old shut-ins. It'll remind you like when Harry Carey and Steve Stone used to broadcast the Cubs games, and Harry Carey would be all liquored up about the 7th inning, about to fall out of the press box. They had that big net there when he'd lead everybody and singing "Take Me Out to the Ballpark," and he'd go, "Want to say hello to all the shut-ins out there at the convent down there in Carbondale, Illinois, and all the nuns and everyone." And you know what I'm talking about, Jimmy. It was classic. That was great stuff. But no, Notre Dame has a huge fan base. But when they played Alabama in 2012, Jake and Jimmy, Alabama could have scored, I believe, on every drive. They won 42-14. They absolutely curb stomped Notre Dame. They weren't even competitive. Jimmy, how much better is Notre Dame than they were? I mean, now that's been 8 years, but Brian Kelly's been the coach the entire time.
Oh, noticeably, significantly better. I mean, again, that offensive line, I mean, they are they're really good. And again, they can, they can score all around. It's just no comparison to those early years, Brian Kelly teams. And of course, as recently as 2 years ago, he was kind of in trouble. And then last year, I think they really gained a lot of confidence with their performance against Georgia. They played really well in Athens, had a chance to win the ball game, and it just sparked them to, a really nice year. And Book is, I think, 28-3 as their starting quarterback, so they're winning again. They're confident as a program. I think their recruiting has really picked up. But if that was the scenario we had that Jake mentioned in regard to who the 4 playoff teams are, you look at teams like Florida and A&M. Those guys. I mean, they're without question among the top teams in the country. And I think this would be an excuse where the powers that be could use, because of this being a pandemic year and we've had so much schedule fluctuation on the fly during the middle of the season for teams like BYU to be able to schedule games and so forth, that I think honestly something could be worked out in the off season just to go straight to the 8-team playoffs starting next year, because
I agree.
First of all, you're going to eliminate 90% of the whining that by guaranteeing that each conference champion gets in. So you can forget that, and then you do 3 at-larges. And if a group of 5 like this year, like Cincinnati, and hey, BYU's good. Somebody like BYU, maybe give them a spot if they've really steamrolled a couple of good teams. You could mix that in there, but that way, that at least with 8 teams, nobody can say that an elite team's being left out. So I think that's what everybody wants anyway, because we all know it's going to get to that eventually. Why not do it now?
Yeah, and it is a good time to do it, Jimmy, because the interest, the 5th and 6th teams, you can argue. The way I look at it, they call it the Power 5 and the Group of 5. I don't like that, because automatically one conference champion from the Power 5 is going to be out. But I like to have more teams. I don't want to have it so big that it's watered down and it dilutes the importance of the regular season. That's what you don't want to have. But I don't think you'll do that if you keep it 8 games. Every game still matters. Every game's a playoff, and you just never want to get in a situation where at the end of the season, in a normal 12-game season without the virus, that teams start resting their starters in the 11th and 12th games. Could you imagine the LSU holding guys out in November against Alabama because they've already got a playoff spot locked in, or Auburn holding players out in the Iron Bowl? Okay. Or Mississippi State and Ole Miss, half their starters not playing in the Egg Bowl because they're in the playoff. That's what we have to guard against. But I think that situation, I don't see that happening. Do y'all?
No, I think there's going to be people that want to make sure they're in. I mean, I don't think you're going to have, unless it was just some obviously crazy situation, some sort of scenario where, somebody would, sit out a game at the end, because most of the time, obviously those are conference games. What I think you look at is, when do you announce it? Do you wait till the championship game gets played? So therefore, I don't think anybody would take it easy in a championship game, but I think there may be one scenario a year where that could happen, but I don't think it would be prevalent enough. I mean, like Jimmy said, you're going to eliminate 90% of the whining. You'll still have a few people whine about being number 9 or maybe number 10, but I mean, you give teams like a BYU and a Cincinnati, and I talked about this on my recap show today, is that, the thing about it is, most of the time these teams like Central Florida or whatever, they don't get invited to the playoffs. And then all of a sudden, they're playing a pretty big time team in a bowl game. And that big-time team has 8 players sitting because they're going to be, drafted in the NFL. And it's not working. It's a smart business decision. And then you lose to somebody you're not supposed to. And then they claim it's some sort of big win when we all know the team wasn't at full speed. So it takes that out of the equation, and it gives those guys a legitimate chance against a team full. And it gives a team like a Cincinnati or a BYU a chance to beat one of those guys, therefore allowing more little guys to have a chance to get in there. So I think when you expand it, you'll be able to get some of these underdogs, Cinderella teams, whatever you want to call it. Now, I don't think they're going to win. I think they'll probably get beat, pretty bad, especially early. But at least you give them a legitimate shot, not just some sort of a lollipop at the end for doing real good.
I agree with that. You got to be very careful to protect the integrity of the game, and it's the quality. I mean, college basketball, though, it's different when you got a team that you follow closely. Every game in the regular season does matter because it sets you up for how you do at the end of the year. But we got to be very, very careful and mindful of that. Let me say something real quick. Commercial for one of our sponsors, Jim Karras Chevrolet, 2000 Covington Pike in Memphis. George Gully is a sales manager, been there 22 years, over 4,000 happy customers who bought cars, trucks, and SUVs, new and used, from the sales team there. And remember, the Karras family, more than 65 years, they've been in the car and truck business, not because they're lucky, but because they're good, and they're great at treating people the way you would treat your own friends that you already knew. I would say family. Some families don't get along so well, but they treat you right. They go in there, the process, when you get to Jim Karras Chevrolet, George Gully, the sales manager, has a team. Rachel and Christian are there. George will sit there with a legal pad, take notes, help you find what you want. They've got the Apple technology packages available in all their cars and trucks and SUVs, with so many people working remote right now due to the virus. And that's probably going to be going on for a long time. And for some, it'll probably be permanent. You are never out of touch with your office, with clients and prospects. You are productive wherever you are. You can even text just verbally, and it'll go through while you're driving. Remember, safety first. So they will open tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Jim Karras Chevrolet, 2000 Covington Pike in Memphis. Ask for George Gully, the sales manager. We're proud to have them as sponsors of Sidelines Sports Radio. Now, all right, Jimmy, let's start looking ahead here at the schedule for this coming week. You're going to have Florida at Vanderbilt, LSU at Arkansas, Ole Miss at Texas A&M, Kentucky at Alabama, Tennessee at Auburn, Mississippi State at Georgia, and Missouri at South Carolina. Let's start. We really not much to talk about with Florida Vanderbilt. That's going to be the CBS game for the week for me. Club and Baby Seals. That'll be ugly. Now LSU at Arkansas. This is a game, Jimmy, that you're talking about logo, one of the logos in the SEC. When Arkansas beat Tennessee, that was a great point Cole Kubelik of the SEC Network made with Sam Pittman when they were coming off the field up there in Fayetteville. Hey, you just beat one of the SEC, one of the logos of the SEC. Here's another opportunity for Arkansas. That game is going to be in Fayetteville. With the way LSU is playing, they don't have that. They're struggling everywhere. They're in a rebuilding year, but that hangover is really painful this year. What do you think about the chances of Arkansas getting a win at home against LSU? It's been a while.
It's been a while, but I feel really good about their chances. I'm guessing that Sam will be back on the sideline and they can get back to their normal routine where Odom can just concentrate on coaching the defense. And, they're, of course, again, it's not the same playing at home because of the seating capacity limitations. But Arkansas has played well there all year at home, and I just like their team chemistry. They just go out there and they play hard every week. But what's obvious is that they're having fun playing with each other, and they see a chance to be like what you guys have said. A logo team in the league, and that's got their own issues. They have chemistry problems. They have confidence problems. And Yeah, I see Arkansas winning this game by double digits.
That's going to be 4. They're 3-4 right now. I thought Arkansas could win 4 or 5 games this year. And I was talking about overall, not 4 or 5 SEC games. And this would be the 4th one that put them at 500, guys. Yeah, I think Arkansas is going to be the hungrier of the 2 teams. Jake Crain, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Arkansas is just going to out-discipline them. LSU obviously had their problems. I don't think TJ Finley is going to be able to make a big jump against what Barry Odom's going to do with that zone defense. The way they bring pressures from different areas, it's just not a great situation that they're walking into from a schematical standpoint, but just from a trending standpoint. Obviously, Arkansas is in kind of the Cinderella the whole year, and LSU's kind of been the ugly stepsister. And it's going to be very interesting to see what Kendall Briles dials up for LSU. Obviously, LSU's had a huge problem when teams go up tempo. I mean, they have a problem when teams go normal tempo, slow tempo, fast tempo, really whatever tempo, as long as they get off the bus. But, at the end of the day, I like I like Arkansas by probably about 10. I don't know if it'll be a super high scoring game. I think Arkansas may pull away late, but I do like the Hogs in this one.
I do too. And it's not that LSU has a terrible problem with the team not trying or anything like that. It's just that at this point, their problems look too big to overcome. And Bo Pelini, I keep saying this, but guys, him being out of the SEC as long as he was, although he was head coach for a while at Nebraska, then at Youngstown State, I just think that also losing so many players, it didn't matter. You were going to have difficulty this year. He didn't suddenly forget how to coach defense, but I don't think they're going to turn it around. Now, look, as soon as we say that, I wouldn't be surprised if LSU doesn't come in and play a great game, but I still think Arkansas on their home field is playing for so much. The Razorbacks they went 20 games in a row without winning. They hadn't won in several years at home, but they broke that streak when they unlocked the code and exposed the Mississippi State air raid offense under Mike Leach. They won 21-14 early. They started believing, and they're believing more and more in themselves. Look, they got beat last night 63-35 by Florida. But, again, this is going to be what they call a logo trophy, and that could pull them to 4-4. I don't know what's going to happen in the bowl games this year, how they're going to do that. But the thought of Arkansas going to a bowl, I thought they could win 4 or 5 games, and I believe they're going to do it. Going to a bowl, they get all that extra practice. That's nothing but a good thing. Let's do this, guys. Let's take a quick commercial break, and we've got another hour to go on the Sunday afternoon Sidelines wrap-up show. And Jake Crain, I believe you've got to drop off the line, or if you can stay with us, we would love to have you.
I would love to. I got an interview that I got to do here in about 5 minutes.
Absolutely. Now, tell people real quick before you say goodbye to us, and then we'll see you again next weekend about the J-Boy podcast, because it is really incredible. If you haven't listened to it before, you've got to listen. It is a must listen to.
Oh, man. Well, I really appreciate that, Rob. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast on Spotify, Apple. We put one out every day. Had a big recap show today. I'll go check that out. We're on Instagram and Twitter at the J-Boy Show. But, yeah, man, we do all 3 major sports. Obviously, right now it's football season, basketball season starting to come in. Had some big-time guests on already. We've had Woody Page, Marcus Spears, Bruce Pearl, Seth Greenberg. I could go down the list. But just very, very lucky, very blessed to have the audience. I'll fix it all. We talk straight ball. So if you're looking for a place to talk SEC football and basketball, you just come on down to the J-Boy Show, and we talk a lot of recruiting too, and put out some big predictions, and we're doing pretty well right now. But Rob, I really appreciate it. Jimmy, always fun, man.
Oh, look, no doubt about it.
Thanks, man.
Hey, Jake, look, have a great rest of your Sunday. And again, that news you're reporting, it looks like South Carolina may be making a change. We don't know that. We haven't confirmed it. I live by the motto, trust but verify. But again, it goes along the line of what we were saying earlier. There's always going to be news happening. I just think this year some schools are going to have to make changes. The longer you let programs or problems go, they begin to metastasize, and it can just, and it becomes something that is just, it's awful to go through. You have to think about how much money are we going to lose from donations, lack of ticket sales, and everything like that. And schools, they find ways to make changes. They can find the money, but Jake Crain, thanks so much.
Definitely not. And I'll leave you with this, Rob. If Muschamp did get let go, Alabama just got another great analyst.
Hey, he'll be there with Butch Jones buying his gear in the bookstore out of his own pocket, Oh my gosh, good point. Hey,
he'll be able to afford it.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll be getting
without a doubt.
that monthly payoff for a long time in the ATM on the first of the month. All right, Jake Crain, thanks so much for being with us. Jimmy Hodge is going to stay with us. We've got Mitch Davis, Rivals.com reporter for the University of Memphis, also covers a lot of college and pro basketball. Mitch Davis, rising star journalist. But we're going to take a quick break. Be right back. We have another hour to go on the Sunday afternoon Sidelines.live wrap-up show. And remember to be with us every week, Fridays 3 to 5 p.m., the Sidelines.live Friday broadcast. Saturday mornings, 8 to 10 a.m., sports56whbq.com and FM 96.1 and the new FM 98.5. And Sundays again, Sidelines.live. All of these broadcasts can be heard live by going to our website, www.sidelines.live, and all broadcasts are archived within about an hour after us going off the air. They're dated. You can find them on our website, as you can find all of our sponsors. And again, thank you so much, Duncan Williams Asset Management, our title sponsor. We'll be right back with another hour of college football and recruiting talk. Hey, guys, I'll be right back, okay? Hey, Jimmy?
Right.
Yeah, hey, Mitch. Hey, thanks for coming on with us, Mitch.
Hey,
I'll be right back.
no problem.
Okay. How much time?
40 seconds. I'll go get you something.
Hey, Mitch, did you hear us? We were talking earlier about possibly Jake Crain broke the story with Jimmy and me about what's his name? Will Muschamp maybe fired at South Carolina.
I can vouch for that from what I heard last time in Oxford. I talked to several of their beat writers that were there.
Yeah.
And basically, it would surprise everybody.
Okay,
there.
5 seconds. Here, 5 seconds. Here we go. We'll bring that up. Okay, Rob Brown back here with you. Sunday afternoon, Sidelines.live wrap-up show. Lots of news breaking on a Sunday afternoon, and I know a lot of people thought it probably wouldn't happen in this year with most every school out there running budget deficits. But look, there's money out there. There's money in reserve. There's money in places, but also programs have to look down the road. Mitch Davis, again, has joined Jimmy Hodge and me. Rivals.com reporter for the University of Memphis. Also has the Mitch Davis Show podcast, covers college and pro basketball as well, recruiting. Mitch, look, you bring it up here. You said this during the break. You were in Oxford yesterday for the 4:30 game between Ole Miss and South Carolina. And let's talk a little bit more about the South Carolina situation with Will Muschamp.
Yeah, so actually, what's crazy is I was down there in Oxford and talking to the South Carolina people that I've known through basketball contacts and baseball contacts covering the game talk, basketball, football, and baseball. And they said, Mitch, if they get beat tonight, no matter how much the outcome is, Will Muschamp will be let go, probably early this week. And as I was leaving Ball Hemingway after the press conferences, as you probably know, on the way that you leave, you pass by the visiting opposing buses where the team departs from.
And out in front of the front bus where Muschamp was supposed to take the bus was the athletics director and the president of the university waiting there in front of the team bus. I kind of put two and two together. I said, this guy's probably not going to make it back to Columbia. And now that Jake Crain has talked about that, I've missed it on Twitter, the official news, because I've been at lunch Firebirds in Carterville. But it doesn't surprise me. I think the first and foremost guy that South Carolina needs to go after is Hugh Freeze. I think Hugh Freeze would be an excellent fit at the University of South Carolina. And they know that. They know that these guys, they have to get it well in time before, maybe a Tennessee or somebody of that nature jumps into the race, because if they go after Hugh Freeze now, they don't have any more competitors. That puts that fire on Tennessee's back to either make the choice to stay with Jeremy Pruitt or fire Jeremy Pruitt and get an arms race to South Carolina.
Yeah, and that's going to be a situation. Hugh Freeze at Liberty, Jimmy. He's 7-0 right now. He's got Malik Willis. I know it was a transfer from Auburn, another Atlanta area football player. He's a dual threat quarterback. Hugh Freeze is a great offensive coach. Obviously, in the SEC, you got to play defense too. The one thing about Hugh Freeze at Ole Miss, Jimmy, that I think kept Ole Miss from winning bigger, and then they had some great success, but the running game wasn't really what it should have been, because you've got to have a running game in the SEC to win. What do you think about the possibility of Hugh Freeze leaving Liberty? And we know they've got a lot of money at Liberty. There's no question about that. But it's a job in the SEC, and somebody's going to get him. South Carolina, if they're making a change, I would think would be smart to go get him.
Yeah, although it's interesting that he signed a contract extension this week with Liberty. And as you mentioned, they have a lot of money. I don't know what clauses are in there. I'm guessing that obviously if a Power 5 school came calling, that he would have the, flexibility to talk with any school and then, make a decision. But, I think South Carolina would be a job that would appeal to him, because, think about coming into Ole Miss and a school that had been, having some turmoil, and you're wondering how are they going to be able to compete with the powerhouses in the West, and they were certainly able to do so. I think the East would be really a better situation for Hugh, because you got Georgia, Florida, but really the remainder of the league right now. It's obvious that on that side of the division ledger, Tennessee is they still got a ways to go, as does Missouri. You take Georgia and Florida out of the equation, and South Carolina could, they could very well fit into that slot that they were able to get traction in while Spurrier was there.
Yeah.
So, I think he could certainly be successful.
Go ahead, Mitch.
If I can interrupt Jimmy here for a second, knowing Hugh Freeze and knowing him on a personal level and seeing where all he has gone and been able to win at, I wrote this in an article last week, and I stand by what I said. Wherever Hugh Freeze ends up next, whether he stays at Liberty for another 2 or 3 years, which I think is a very real possibility because the girls love it there, his family loves it there, a good Christian faith-based university, or if he takes a South Carolina job or takes a Tennessee job or takes a Michigan job, no matter where Hugh Freeze will end up, I will guarantee you that he will win a national championship at the next place he goes to, because he was on the right path at Ole Miss, went to, I think, a Sugar Bowl and a Peach Bowl, won both of those, was competing for an SEC championship until some last-minute things changed in the arms race with Alabama and Auburn. But I tell you what, knowing Coach Freeze's career, knowing him personally, and he's won championship after championship after championship everywhere he's been, dating back to Briarcrest, dating back to Arkansas State, Lambeth, Ole Miss, now at Liberty. This guy can coach, and this guy is a championship caliber college football coach. And my grandfather always says it best. Coach Freeze is a football guy. He is a football guy. He loves the sport of football. He understands it, and he also has his priorities straight. Again, he loves God, loves his family, and football is his third loving. And any program that has Coach Freeze is a darn lucky program.
Well, somebody's going to get him. And again, Liberty gave him that contract extension. They're having great success this year. They beat Virginia Tech 38-35, big in-state. Obviously, that's huge. It's the best football program in the state of Virginia. And that's got to be, maybe that's the biggest win in Liberty history. But there's certainly money's not going to be the issue of why he leaves. It would be the prestige of taking an SEC job. But there's no doubt the guy is a really good football coach. Mitch, let's talk real quick. The Memphis Tigers did not play yesterday against Navy. Again, a virus postponement. But look, we're going to persevere. We're going to be playing football probably a little bit longer than we had thought, but that's okay with me. Hey, too much of a good thing is never bad. And we love college football. But talk about this Memphis football team. They're 3-2 in the conference, 4-2 overall. They just win. All you want to do is win. But the defense is awful this year from Memphis. And that's I thought Mike McIntyre would be better. But is Memphis making any progress in recruiting defensive linemen? Because that's what they need.
They really are making a lot of improvement. I think they signed 8 guys. I'm not sure on the names, so I have my laptop right in front of me right now. But they did sign a big recruiting class on National Signing Day a couple of days ago. But the thing about Memphis is they have yet to have that consistency within the program of playing multiple games in a row. And, offense is a lot easier to maintain than defense. And you guys all know that. Everybody knows that. Football, you need reps. You need time to play. And when you've only played 6 games out of a 12-week schedule,
yeah,
then you don't build that. You don't build that momentum that you need. And that's something that I keep on reminding a lot of Memphis fans right now. It's just to be patient. Be patient. Rydell doing a good job. We saw the improvements against UCF. We saw the improvements against Temple. The improvements are coming. It's just a matter of time. And I think this week, if they're able to play, they play a very good FCS program in Stephen F. Austin. They've won their last 6 games. They were in the playoffs last year. Very good team. But this could be a game where Memphis uses to their advantage, and they keep on rolling. And I fully expect them to win out the rest of the schedule.
Well, that would put them at, you think they'll be 8-2 by the end of the season, and they haven't won on the road yet, and they need to do that. But you think about the loss on the road at SMU. That was after a 4-week layoff, and that's going to be tough for anybody. And SMU is right now they're having a really good season. They're 7-2. SMU is American Athletic.
It's 7-2. They lost that fight to Tulsa.
Yeah, lost a tough one at the end of Tulsa last night.
Yeah. But I mean, that American Athletic Conference though is a good conference. Jimmy, your thoughts about the job Ryan Silverfield is doing this year, and Mitch, maybe you were the one that brought it up about he's friends with the players, and maybe that's an issue. He was the offensive line coach under Mike Norvell. He knows them. I think you want to have a good relationship with your players. You want them obviously to respect you and to play hard for you. But I think offense is not the issue for Memphis, Jimmy. It's defense.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, when you're scoring as many points as they are, well, of course they had a bad outing against Cincinnati, but Cincinnati kind of they're just at another level this year from everybody else in the conference. But I think the outing they had against South Florida obviously wasn't good. I think this has given them an opportunity to take a step back and just really evaluate every aspect of what they're trying to do defensively, and just focus on what they need to work on. You got to know your strengths, you got to know your weaknesses, and you have to adjust accordingly. And also it gives you a chance to evaluate your talent. Are the right guys playing right now? Do we have other players that might not be as experienced, but they really like playing the game? They're very eager. They want to get better. So there's a lot of intangibles involved, and they have to make decisions clearly on what they want to do on that side of the ball.
Yeah, and it's after what Mike Norvell did last year. They were 12-2. They went to the Cotton Bowl and played Penn State. They didn't win the game, but the expectations are high, and now fans, you have to really push people to talk about Memphis basketball. And we all, Memphis people love Memphis basketball, but that's a great sign of how far the football program has come along, is that people here, it's November 15th, and all you're talking about is Tiger football. Let me say something real quick about one of our sponsors, Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. New ownership group. It's John Dobbs Jr. is part of the ownership group. Everybody in Memphis and the Mid-South area knows the Dobbs family. They were in the car and truck business for a long time, and everybody knows that they are successful with everything they do. Again, John Dobbs Jr., part of the Red River Auto Group, Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. They just took over October 5th, the dealership. Justin Wynn is the general manager. We're working with Justin Wynn. The people over there are fantastic to work with. We did a remote there this past Friday in Wynne, right there on Highway 64. Lots of Memphis people going back and forth to Heber Springs, over to the lake. It's about a half a mile south of 64 on Highway 1, right there. When you see the Walmart and you go south about a half a mile. If you're coming from Memphis on I-40, Forest City exit, Highway 1, you go north. It's about 12 miles. Easy to get to from Memphis. A very easy trip. In fact, we're broadcasting the Sunday afternoon show, watching the beautiful sun going down on Crowley's Ridge here in Parkin, Arkansas. We've been over. We're still here working, getting ready for duck season, 144 hours away. Look, you go there, Red River Ford Toyota. These people, everybody that works there is from the area. They take a lot of pride in what they do. Fords and Toyotas, cars, trucks, and SUVs. They're great people to work with. They're open Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Again, Justin Wynn is the general manager that we work with. It's easy to get to. They're going to work with you if you're looking to get a car or truck. They've got their sales department. Service department is huge. They've got a big, huge piece of property there. The minute you pull up on the lot, you'll be greeted by a lot of positive people, a lot of positive karma. Red River Ford Toyota. Look forward to working with them for a long time. And again, if you live in Memphis, Little Rock, Forest City, anywhere in the surrounding area, Justin Wynn and the folks at Red River Ford Toyota, they'll even drive your vehicle and deliver it to your driveway in Memphis. They are looking forward to working with the Memphis people. Again, John Dobbs Jr., part of the ownership group, Red River Ford Toyota, and we're glad to have them as a sponsor of Sidelines. Great people to work with. Mitch and Jimmy, we're talking about Memphis and what they've got left to do in the rest of the year. And let's take a look now. And again, we were looking, earlier we were looking and talking about the SEC games this coming weekend. And let's go back, Jimmy, and take a look. And by the way, I want to ask you real quick, Mitch. We talked earlier about Vanderbilt and Kentucky yesterday. Kentucky won 38-35. They're now 3-4. A lot of people had high expectations for Kentucky coming into this season. Their offensive and defensive lines were supposed to be very experienced. Well, they are. You can't say they're not, but they really hadn't performed. But it's the offense. And Mitch, not only do you cover University of Memphis for Rivals.com, you have a lot of Kentucky bluegrass blood in your family. You're not real happy with the Kentucky offense, and let's talk about that.
Yeah, so before I get into that, I do want to say my thoughts and prayers are out to Coach Slarman, Coach Slarman's family. We lost Coach on Thursday to his valiant fight with cancer. I was talking to a couple of Kentucky people, including Sean Smith at Go Big Blue Country. And, the win yesterday, it was ugly. But, given everything the players and the team have had to go through this week with losing coach, and Coach Slarman was a former Kentucky player, beloved by the players, beloved by the fan base. So it's been a really tough week for Kentucky football, and it was so good to get that win. As far as the offense goes, Eddie Gran, it's so hard to put into words the frustration that a lot of Kentucky fans have. This is a guy that we've given the credit to, we've given the reins to, but he has not been able to produce, whether that's, leaving Lynn Bowden in last year, leaving him out of the offensive scheme for 5 games in after losing Terry Wilson, or if it's leaving Terry Wilson too long into the game and not putting in Joey Gatewood, or we even saw a rising star yesterday of Lexington native and Bo Allen do well against Vanderbilt. Eddie Grant's play calling is very just predictable, per se. It's run on the first or second down, set yourself up for a 3rd and 7, ball 3rd and 7, a 3rd and 8, and you have to throw the ball, and you have to trust Terry Wilson, who's not a very good pocket quarterback. This Kentucky offense needs a new change, and they need a new change heading into next season. Yeah,
it's Jimmy. Eddie Grant's been around a long time at Auburn, Kentucky. They're just the expectations that Kentucky had coming into the season. 8th year of Mark Stoops at Kentucky. They've really built something up there. It's consistent. They've in the last 4 years prior to this year, they'd won 32 games. In 2018, they won 10. They beat Penn State in the New Year's Day Bowl, the Citrus Day Bowl. But they're not going in the direction that you thought they were. What would you do if you're Kentucky to try to spike the offense? Because they got lucky last year with Lynn Bowden Jr., or the third or whatever. He had about 1,400 yards rushing. They switched him from wide receiver to play quarterback. But Kentucky just seems like they're losing ground.
Well, they just have to find a vertical passing game, and Mitch mentioned him at the very end of his evaluation of where Kentucky was right now. But do you see them giving Bo Allen a shot? And what's his potential to kind of be the long-term quarterback at Kentucky?
I think the long-term effect of Bo Allen, I think, is very positive. I think once that we get an offensive coordinator in there that can work with them and a quarterback's coach that can work with them, I think Bo Allen is the future of the program. I do think Joey Gatewood is going to be used as like a Lynn Bowden. What I've heard, and I don't know, Rob, you might have heard the same thing at Auburn, but Joey Gatewood has actually been practicing with the wide receivers and tight ends to set up for that Lynn Bowden, Terry Wilson type mix with Bo Allen and Joey Gatewood heading into next season. And the thing about it is, just like Ole Miss and Mississippi State, Alabama, Auburn, Kentucky is constantly trying to compete with Louisville, and we're trying to keep that Governor's Cup in the rightful place of Lexington, Kentucky. After the last 4 seasons has been all Kentucky. Of course, this season we're not going to be playing U of L, but looking at Louisville, looking at their future with Malik Cunningham, they've also got a good receiving core. It only makes sense to really put a lot of time and effort into Bo Allen and also put Joey Gatewood in as a 2-quarterback, dual quarterback system where Gatewood acts like a Lynn Bowden, where they could run the Wildcat, they could run a triple option pass with Bo Allen and Joey Gatewood. But those 2 quarterbacks going forward, I don't know if Terry Wilson will come back next year with the extra year of eligibility. A lot of Kentucky fans love him to death, but we're hoping that he moves on to another opportunity in his professional career, because we really like Bo Allen. He's a 4-star quarterback out of Lexington Christian Academy there in Lexington, Kentucky. And we also love Joey Gatewood, who came from Auburn, who Rob knows pretty well just by watching him at Auburn.
Yeah, he is a big guy that can run. He's about a 4.65 40 guy, and he's got a good arm. He's a dual threat quarterback, but he's a really good athlete. Played at Bartram Trail High School down in Jacksonville. But Kentucky's got to make a change at quarterback. There's no question about that. Hey, let's look at some of the other SEC games coming up this weekend. Mitch, before you joined us, we talked a little. Obviously, Florida Vanderbilt's a club and baby Seals game. That'll just be ugly. There may be I don't know what the mercy rule is in the SEC, but they'll probably have to call it on that one. Florida will just, name the score. LSU at Arkansas. I think Arkansas and Jimmy and Jake agreed on that one. Ole Miss at Texas A&M. Let's talk about that one. Ole Miss scored 59 points against South Carolina yesterday in Oxford. They're going on the road at Texas A&M, a team that every year there seems to be a lot of momentum among the media that this is going to be the year A&M gets it going. It is year 3 of Jimbo Fisher, 10 years, $75 million contract guaranteed, okay? They went on the road. We could go Saturday, 149-3 at South Carolina. They're going to be at home against Ole Miss. I'll start with you, Jimmy Hodge. Is that a game that interests you, or is A&M going to have their way with Ole Miss in College Station, where although they're supposed to be at 20% capacity, there'll be about 60,000 people there. That's just the student body.
Well, I'm always interested in a game where both offenses can put up pinball numbers, and I think, I think that's what you're going to see, because Ole Miss's offense is just defense is just atrocious.
Yeah,
South Carolina was running through holes that me or you could have glided through.
Yeah.
Spiller could run. He might set a school record. You look at those weapons A&M has: Anaya Smith, a Weidermeyer, a Spiller. There, and Mond is really playing as well as he has during his career. So Ole Miss scored 59 last night. They may need to score 69 to win this one, but I'm going to go with A&M. Yes, I'm absolutely, and maybe one of these 59-45 deals possibly.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with A&M as well. Their defense, their front seven's playing better. Ole Miss will get their points, but A&M will get a lot more than they do. Mitch Davis, what do you think about that game? Does it interest you at all? It's a CBS game.
Breaking news for you guys for this Ole Miss and Texas A&M game. Last night in the post-game press conference, and he also said it on the Ole Miss Radio Network post-game show, the game between Ole Miss and Texas A&M has been postponed. The official announcement will come on Monday due to the COVID cases there at College Station. But if the game is in fact played by some miracle, I think Ole Miss's offense, everybody's forgetting about Matt Corral, who had an amazing game, 549 yards, 6 touchdowns last night. Matt Corral put up major numbers last night. I still think Texas A&M wins, but when this game is played, it won't be played next weekend. But when it is played, I think it'll actually be a lot closer than people expect.
Well, I could see a 56-42 A&M type game, but again, we're going to have to wait and see if the game is going to be played. I don't even try to speculate on that, but again, the national narrative, we all know it. It's so negative by a lot of the national writers. They're just bouncing up and down, just giggling with excitement anytime something like this can happen. But you know what? We're going to persevere in the SEC and the ACC and the AAC around the country. But the Big 12 guys sadly took themselves out of the conversation about the college football playoff in week 1 when they were 0-3 at home. When, look, Arkansas State went up and beat Kansas State. Iowa State lost at home. And I just think that again, perseverance. You got to find excuses to win. And I think the SEC is showing that. And the commissioner, Greg Sankey, is, hey, look, he's stunned, but not deterred. We're going to get this season through. And I think the SEC very likely is going to have 2 teams in the playoff. Let's do this. Let's take a quick commercial break. This is the Sunday afternoon Sidelines.live wrap-up show. And remember, Sidelines is on live every Friday afternoon, 3 to 5 p.m. Central, www.sidelines.live. Saturday mornings, 8 to 10 a.m. Central, Sports 56 WHBQ in Memphis, Flynn Broadcasting, 96.1 FM, and the new FM 98.5. And on Sundays, we do the Sunday afternoon wrap-up show. That is 3 to 5 p.m. Central, www.sidelines.live. And remember, all of these shows can be heard live on our website from anywhere in the world. We might even have some aliens out there listening on our website, sidelines.live. And if you missed the show, you can always go in there in the archives. Nigel, our wonderful webmaster, good day, mate, will have it up there within 45 minutes to an hour of every broadcast, so you can go hear it at your leisure. If you're traveling across the country on a Greyhound bus, on a business trip, flying on a plane or whatever, you're never out of touch at sidelines.live. 30 minutes to go. Mitch Davis, Jimmy Hodge with me. We'll be right back. Hey, Mitch, man, that's great stuff, man, being down there and getting that report. I like that. I mean, that's good stuff.
Hey, quick question. I'm about to be at my grandparents. How much longer do you need?
Oh, wait, no, if you got to go, don't worry about it. You can go. That's fine. You're going to.
Hey, I want to come back and do one more.
Now, does Mayor Lightfoot in Chicago know that you're going to visit your grandmother?
How much on Dan Vulcan is what I'm going to do. If you don't mind, I want to say one thing about Cincinnati before I get
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hell yeah. Come back. Thank you. All right, how much time? Okay, got another minute. Okay. What let's see. Okay. Hey, Jimmy, what's the governor of Illinois? Is he close to shutting everything down? No fun of any kind? Fauci says no Christmas. Unbelievable.
No Christmas. Oh, screw that.
I mean, this is just, I'm going to tell you folks, this is crazy, Jimmy, but that Lori Lightfoot, man, I mean, she's just, I know that's not your mayor.
Jimmy, come on down south. We'll get you a place here in Memphis.
Yeah, come on.
Oh, I would do that like yesterday if I could.
Yeah.
Yeah. They call her Lori Lightweight.
Lori Lightweight. She is absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. All right, how much time? 18 seconds. Okay, stand by. Yeah, what we'll do, we'll come back and say, I know Mitch has got to go, but you got some things you'd like to say before you. Okay. Okay, Rob Brown back here with you. Another half hour to go on the Sunday afternoon Sidelines.live wrap-up show. Jimmy Hodge up in Chicago and Mitch Davis in Memphis, Rivals.com reporter for the University of Memphis and the Mitch Davis podcast. Mitch, again, you've got some things to say about Cincinnati that are definitely worth listening to, because the American Athletic Conference champion to be is they're going to have something to say about the playoff, I believe, especially in this weird season.
Yeah, so look, here's the thing. I'm going to keep this short and simple, and I say this every time I come on the air. Cincinnati is a playoff team, and it is about time we take down the establishment, drain the college football swamp, and we let in Cincinnati, let in a UCF, a Memphis, a Boise State into the college football playoffs, because I guarantee you Cincinnati is better than every team in the Big 12 and in the Pac-12. And you could also throw in, with the exception of Notre Dame and Clemson, every team in the ACC as well.
I mean, you can't really argue that, can you, Jimmy?
Well, I'll tell you why. You've got some teams like, North Carolina and Wake Forest that, they're they've been ranked as well, Carolina in the top 10, and their defense is as bad as anybody in the country. I mean, that Wake Forest North Carolina game, I mean, I don't think they could have stopped anybody if they'd have played for 3 more months. I mean, it was embarrassing.
Yeah,
mean,
you're right.
And that's the thing. Cincinnati has a quarterback by the name of Desmond Ritter, and Luke Fickell. I tell you what, East Carolina pitched a big fit about, they're running up the score. They put up 55 points. I thought it was hilarious. Luke Fickell is a product of the old school football. He said, look, it's not my job to stop myself, and it's not my job to stop my team from scoring. It's your job to stop you, to stop us from scoring. And I love the Cincinnati team. They're having a magical season like Memphis did last season, and even better season, actually. And I love what the Bearcats are doing. And that's what I wanted to close with today, guys, and just say that Cincinnati is a playoff team, and so is BYU. People can argue with me about BYU, but that's all I got to say today. That's my closing remark.
Well, look, those are great remarks, and I've been high on Cincinnati for a long time, and I will not be surprised. But I like that term, drain the swamp. I never like to have the establishment say this is just the way it is. Hey, let the best teams play. Jimmy, you have something to say.
Well, I was going to say something in regard to that type of matter of factness. When Matt Jones was the scout team quarterback a couple of years ago, he and Shavers and a couple of young receivers were giving the first team defense a lot of problems, and they ran a deep pattern 3 or 4 times in a row and completed it. And Saban said, "Why don't you quit throwing that pattern?" And Max said, "Why don't you get somebody out here that can stop it?"
That's look. I'm the same way. Someone says, "Well, they were running the score up on us." No, it's not our job. You can't tell our third and fourth team guys to go into the game and play at 50%, because that might be their opportunity, and it is to shine in competition so they can play in more meaningful minutes in future games. Hey, Mitch Davis, I know you got to go. Thanks so much for joining us. And tell people again how they can follow you on your podcast and your rivals.com website.
Yeah, Tiger Sports Report for all your Memphis stuff. The Mitch Davis Show for everything else podcast. Find that everywhere you listen to podcasts by simply typing in Full Court Press and the Mitch Davis Show. I look forward to seeing you guys and talking with you guys on Friday and Saturday and Sunday of next week. Go Tigers.
Looking forward to it. Go Tigers. Great job as always by Mitch Davis. Okay, Jimmy Hodge, let's take a look now at these other SEC games. Kentucky's at Alabama. Tennessee is going to be at Auburn. Mississippi State at Georgia. Missouri at South Carolina. Let's take a look at this Kentucky-Alabama game. Kentucky, again, their offense, as we just discussed, it's just not enough, and they're not going to be able to compete. Alabama playing better than anybody in America right now. Mac Jones, his numbers are off the charts. Tua, he had a great career. Mac Jones, he's having a Heisman-like season. Steve Sarkisian, the offensive coordinator, quarterback coach at Alabama, deserves a tremendous amount of credit for the job he's doing. But again, Kentucky is just going to be a light snack for Alabama Saturday.
Yeah, I think after having 2 weeks off, Bama's going to be chomping at the bit. I think defensively, they're going to have a pretty good night of it. I'm sure they're going to put 8 guys in the box and just man cover on the wide outs and just dare Wilson to beat him with the vertical passing game. I don't think they'll be able to do that. And then offensively, I think they're just going to be able to carry on like they've been all season. And if Kentucky isn't able to create any scoring opportunities with ball possession drives, it's just going to be a long day for them. I mean, you've got to try to control the ball a little bit to keep your defense off the field, because if Kentucky's defense is going to have to be on the field most of the game, I mean, they're just going to wear down, and they're going to have problems as is, just with all the weapons Alabama trots out there.
Yeah, I would agree with that totally. I mean, Alabama should get a big win Saturday. Tennessee at Auburn. Tennessee's lost 4 straight. I've been really high on Jeremy Pruitt. I really like him. I still think he's a heck of a football coach, But when he fired Jimmy Brumbaugh during the Kentucky game in Knoxville, and it was a beatdown in Knoxville, Kentucky just had their way with Tennessee. There's something wrong with the chemistry of this Tennessee football team. Jimmy Brumbaugh was fired. He's gone. He hadn't even been there very long, and he's been around in the SEC a long time. Tennessee's going to go play at Auburn. You have to look at it, though, Jeremy Pruitt against Gus Malzahn. In the last 6 times, he's gone against him as a defensive coordinator at either Alabama or Florida State or Georgia, and head coach at Tennessee in 2018. Jeremy Pruitt is 5-1 against Gus Malzahn. But now this is Chad Morris's offense. And from everyone I talked to that covers Auburn, Jimmy, they say this is Chad Morris's offense, and it's not Gus, monkeying with it. No, Gus, I'm sure, makes suggestions, which he rightfully should be doing as a head coach. But Chad Morris's offense, Auburn fans were told the tight end would be featured a lot more. And, J.J. Pegues is a really good tight end. Frazier's coming out, Brandon Frazier. He's been hurt all the year. Auburn is just doing things differently on offense. The offensive line has improved the last 4 games big time. Auburn's run for 200-plus yards in each of the last 4 games. Tank Bigsby out of Callaway High School in Hoganville, Georgia, I think is the best freshman running back I've ever seen at Auburn in terms of being the whole package. And again, Bo Jackson, they really didn't throw that much to him out of the backfield when he was a freshman at Auburn, and he also was in the wishbone. Tank Bigsby is a difference maker. Auburn's defense is the only one in the SEC to not give up 30 points or more in a game all season long. I'm looking for Auburn to come out and try to make a big-time statement by going after Tennessee with a full court press. They're gonna throw everything they've got. Now, Jeremy Pruitt is, I believe, coaching the defensive line right now. He's the head coach, but he's taken over that role. I just feel like Tennessee is in a death spiral right now. I look for Auburn to get the win Saturday. Jimmy, you can make arguments that, well, Tennessee at some point is going to turn around. Well, Auburn's got a lot of momentum. I know they were off. That's going to be 21 days that Auburn will have been off since they last played at home in Auburn and won 48-11 over LSU. But again, I look for Auburn to win this game. Nothing's easy, but I think Auburn will win by several scores.
Yeah, and I think Tennessee's problem just starts and begins where we all know it is at this level now, and that's quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just not getting the production there. I think in that Kentucky loss when you had back-to-back pick sixes, especially the last one that was an 85-yard pick six, it just completely deflates your team. And you could just see the air go out of Tennessee. And from that point on, Kentucky just did whatever they wanted to. And then, of course, going up against Alabama was a result that, everybody pretty much expected. And so now you got a team that's lost 4 in a row. They're just, they have no confidence. They're kind of confused. They're not really sure, what they have to do to win a game. But, they have had plenty of time to get ready for this one. And I think you just have to forget about all the noise you're hearing from the outside and just try to focus on what you do best. On the other hand, Auburn is offensively, they're executing the way they thought they would at the beginning of the year. They've established the running game because of the development of the offensive line, and they're really dangerous at wide receiver. They finally started to use the tight end. So, they have everything going right now offensively, and, that's just going to be too much for Tennessee to deal with. I think one thing that the Tennessee guys could, I guess, use as motivation for this game was that there were a lot of players on that roster from 2 years ago that came down to Jordan-Hare and pulled off a huge upset. I think, and maybe fans from both teams are wondering how that took place, but it is kind of strange sometimes when you've won somewhere against a team you're not supposed to win. Sometimes you just match up against certain teams, but I just think, Auburn's going to win this one by 3 or 4 touchdowns. I don't foresee, really any other outcome unless Auburn comes out flat or they commit some turnovers, because I think that defense is just going to be having a tough time containing what Auburn's going to throw at them offensively.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me when you look at the talent on the Tennessee offensive line. 4 of their starters, that's if Lockett is starting. He was a 5-star kid out of West Virginia, number 1 player in the state. Wayne Morris out of Loganville, Georgia, Grayson High School, another Metro Atlanta kid, 5-star. Trey Smith, Cade Mays, transferred after left Knoxville Catholic, signed with Georgia, was starting for Georgia, left after last season, got the clearance to play. Of course, his father was all SEC in the mid-'80s at Tennessee. Ty Chandler, Eric Gray out of Memphis, Lausanne High School. They got some pretty good running backs. At one point, Ty Chandler was leading the SEC in rushing this year. But again, the problems at quarterback. Second year Dick Cheney has been at Tennessee, Jimmy. He had success. Jake Fromm in 2017 came in January, went through spring practice, looked really good in 2017, got Georgia to within a play of the national championship when they played Alabama and lost. Devontae Smith on that score, 41-yard touchdown pass at the end of the game. And you just have to say, why isn't Tennessee getting any better at the quarterback position? The guys behind them, I think their best, prospect for the future is Harrison Bailey out of Marietta, Georgia. But again, he didn't get a chance to go through spring practice. He was there early, but there was a three-month period from March 10th to June 8th that all the players in the SEC missed out on. But this kid looks like a big-time quarterback in waiting. Jimmy, bottom line, how sick is the Tennessee football team right now? 1 to 5. 1 being they are just absolutely flatlining. 5, maybe they're 1 or 2 tweaks away from going on a 4-game win streak.
I think they're probably a 2 right now.
Yeah.
And to make matters worse, I mean, this is the only year probably that it's ever going to take place that they're facing a 10-game SEC schedule, and that makes your obstacles even tougher to overcome. Because when you're playing a team like Auburn, who's on a winning streak, they're playing with a lot of confidence. They're just chomping at the bit to make your life even more miserable, especially remembering that 2 years ago you came down here and pulled off an upset at Jordan-Hare.
Yeah, and that was a game where Jarrett Stidham there was one, they sacked him one time at the 6-yard line. Tennessee scored, and another interception he threw led to another Tennessee touchdown. And I was at that game and wasn't surprised, though, because Jeremy Pruitt was asked at halftime, what did you do and what did Auburn not do? He said, well, we adjusted, and they didn't. And Jeremy Pruitt, I say this a lot, but he's great at adjusting in real time to what the other team's offense is doing. Now, Derek Ainsley is his defensive coordinator. He's, I believe, taking responsibility now for the defensive line in the absence of former defensive line coach Jimmy Brumbaugh. But
I think Jeremy's coaching the defensive line.
That's what I'm saying. He's coaching the defensive line, and Derek Derek Ainsley is the defensive coordinator. So, but again, Jeremy, he knows what Gus likes to do. I'm sure he's got an idea of what Chad Morris is going to do. But the key with Auburn, Jack McNeil you're starting to see he's going to be recruiting a lot of much bigger offensive linemen, like 6'7", 6'8". You're going to start seeing a lot of that. It's hard for those guys to bend. But again, I look for Auburn. They're playing with a lot of confidence. This is a statement game opportunity for Auburn. But again, Tennessee sitting there at number 6 in the nation in recruiting right now. I know Auburn would really like to get this win because Dylan Brooks, the number 2 player in Alabama out of Roanoke, his uncle Cedric McIntyre was all SEC running back at Auburn in the mid-'70s. And his cousin Jarris McIntyre played for Auburn 2001, 2, and 3 for Tommy Tuberville. He's the coach at Tampa Catholic High School now. Auburn really would love to get back in on him. And if they win, they'll think, hey, look, come to Auburn. Tennessee's lost now 5 straight. So you see a lot of subplots going on here for that game. But it's big for both teams because it's a conference game and it's the next game. All right, Jimmy, Mississippi State at Georgia. That's a 6:30 game on SEC Network. Mississippi State is just, their offense is so bad. But I've always said, and you and I talked about it, the line of scrimmage talent that Mike Leach will have in the SEC will be better, going forward than anything he had at Texas Tech or Washington State. The front sevens, though, on defense that Mike Leach will face are better than anything he saw, certainly week in and week out, or pretty much in any given year. They just can't handle those. They have no running game. Kylan Hill out of Columbus, Georgia, one of the top running backs in the SEC, has already left the team. So I don't see Mississippi State having much of a chance against Georgia. Georgia, they've got their problems at quarterback. And again, we talked yesterday with Lauren Smith of the Georgia Football Network that JT Daniel might get a chance to play this week. You think Georgia's ready to let him out of the corral?
Well, if they're not against Mississippi State, they're not ever going to be, I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the perfect opportunity. And, Auburn, Georgia's going to do what everybody else has done against the state air raid offense since Barry Odom brought his Hogs into Wade Davis Stadium the second week of the season, and that is rush 3 guys and cover with 8. And State hadn't been able to adjust to it yet. And they won at Vandy last week, despite the fact they only had 204 yards of total offense. However, they had no turnovers, and Vandy had 5, and that's how State was able to pull that one out at home. But, I think this one's going to be pretty ugly, but, that's why you play them.
Yeah.
I've never seen a game won without it being played, so we'll see what happens, but I think the Dogs are going to have a pretty easy time of it.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and you're right. They have to play the games for a reason, but again, Georgia, look, it was the perfect storm for their opponents, but it was the worst nightmare that came true because Jake Fromm left a year early. Justin Fields had already left. Jamie Newman comes in and doesn't even take the first snap. I guess he just didn't think he was good enough. And who knows if he'll make it in the pros. The Wake Forest grad transfer. JT Daniels, big-time recruit from Southern Cal, comes in. He's injured. And you got Stetson Bennett the 4th, who was 5th team in the preseason, and they were no way he would play. He's your starter. But again, we talked about this with Jake Crain about potential issues, the chemistry on that team. I don't know what's going on, but George Pickens, what's his status with Georgia? What is the status with the offense overall? Why did Zamir White only have 6 carries after he broke a 75-yard touchdown run on the first play last week down in the Gator Bowl in the Georgia-Florida game? You got to wonder, Todd Monken in his first year as offensive coordinator at Georgia, what has he really done to make Georgia's offense better, Jimmy?
Well, those are questions that a lot of Georgia fans would like to have the answer to. I mean, again, you score on a 75-yard touchdown run on the first play of scrimmage, and White doesn't carry the ball, but 2 times after that in the first half, and 6 for the whole game. Especially with that offensive line, I just can't understand why they didn't try to just wear Florida down up front, because the Gators have certainly had plenty of instances this season where they have struggled defensively. So I don't really know what their mindset was in regard to what they wanted to do offensively, but they certainly wasted a great opportunity, because if you can control the line of scrimmage and establish a ground game and take time off the clock and limit Florida's opportunities, that would give you the best chance to win. But that didn't happen. So it's lots of times it's a head scratcher as far as some of the things they just decided to do during that game. So I think from now on, this point on, I think the Dogs just have to go out every day and practice, just try to get better, decide what they're best at, focus on that, and then decide what players that they're going to go with at all these key positions, make that decision, and then go all in with them. I mean, that's really I think the best course of action. I think from this point on, their schedule's certainly favorable. So I think they can close out strong, try to get a bowl win, and just look ahead to 2021.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's look, we're going to be playing football. We got games now. December 5th was the end. Now December 12th, we've got some more games that are going to have to be made up. So a lot of football going, and what you're doing right now sets you up for the winter workouts, the spring practice, and going forward. Eventually, we will return to the regular season of 12 games, 8 SEC games, 4 non-conference games. I mean, I don't think we're going to be sticking to the 10-game conference-only format, but you never say never, because that's a long time. One more game. We're about out of time. Missouri at South Carolina. And regardless of what happens with Will Muschamp at South Carolina, this is what they call the Columbia Bowl, the Battle of Columbia. And Missouri, Eli Drinkowitz going to be taking his team on the road. South Carolina just really, really just underperforming this year. I'm going to pick Missouri to win this game. Who knows who the coach will be at South Carolina Saturday, but they're terrible. Missouri at least has some optimism, some positive karma around their program, but I'll take them to win.
Yeah, I think you got a South Carolina program that's just completely lost in space right now. I think this is going to be a really difficult preparation week. I don't even know who the interim coach would be, but it's just a mess. I think you're going to have an entire locker room that's just going to be kind of confused. They don't even know who their interim coach is. Well, they probably do by now, but again, what's our path forward? I mean, what's our practice preparation going to be like going into this game? Are we going to be totally bought into it? Or are we going to be just kind of going through the week just uncertain about everything? So it's really not a good situation.
Yeah, and look, you never want to see anybody lose their job, but with what these guys make, millions of dollars, and even if they get fired, they're going to get paid millions of dollars. It's tough to feel sorry for them. All right, I want to say something real quick before we go. Jim Karras Chevrolet, 2000 Covington Pike in Memphis, one of our sponsors. Look, they open up tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, open till 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday, 2000 Covington Pike in Memphis. George Gully, the sales manager, asked for him, his sales team. Rachel and Christian are in there. They will work with you. It's a very seamless process to buy a new or used car, truck, or SUV. And bottom line, a lot of people are working remote right now. I'm one of them. You're never out of contact with your office, your clients, prospects, everybody, because of the Apple technology packages available in all of the Chevy cars, trucks, and SUVs. They also have the Subaru and Nissan at Jim Karras, 2000 Covington Pike in Memphis. George Gully, 22 years, the sales manager, over 4,000 customers. 65 plus years for the Karras family in the car and truck business, not because they're lucky, but because they understand that listening to the customer and finding them what they want, what they need, is the most important part of the sales relationship when you're buying a car or truck. Look, get up there, check them out. We're proud to have Jim Karras as a sponsor, and they've got great looking cars and trucks. Duck season, 6 days away. That Chevy Silverado, the Trail Boss, it's a customized package. That is a great looking truck, 4-wheel drive. You got to go up there, drive one of these around. Our title sponsor, Duncan Williams Asset Management, since 1969 on the scene in Memphis, the business scene, and they work with you on your 401ks, retirement plans, foundations, and endowments. Your asset management team, led by David Scully, a proud alumnus of the University of Georgia. Check out DWAM, Duncan Williams Asset Management, on our website, sidelines.live. And remember, we'll be back with you Friday afternoon, 3 to 5 on sidelines.live, 3 to 5 p.m. Central, sidelines.live. Again, Saturday mornings, 8 to 10 a.m., Sports 56 WHBQ in Memphis. And again, next Sunday, the wrap-up show, sidelines.live, 3 to 5 p.m. Central. Hey, Jimmy Hodge, thanks so much for being with us from Chicago. Jake Crain earlier from Tupelo. Mitch Davis in Memphis. And all of our listeners, our sponsors, we want to say thank you so much. And as David Goggins always says, don't quit because you're tired, quit because you're done. Jim Fife, former Auburn play-by-play man, would say our time is up. We thank you for yours. We're out of here. Okay. Hey, Jimmy. Hey, that was fun, man. I tell you what, it is. That's 2 hours just flies by. Yeah. Look at all of these over there going, does it? Jimmy's laughing. Hey, Mitch goes, hey, look, we're ready to get you down here to Memphis. We'll find you a place to live. And he goes, man, I would do it yesterday if I could. Man, we got to get you back down in the South, man. I mean, look, we got to do this.